Oui, bonjour. Bonjour à toutes et tous. Welcome everyone to this February meeting. It's a pleasure to see everyone here, and I think we're going to have a fairly long meeting tonight, so let's all get a glass of water and let's get comfortable. So, bienvenue à tout le monde pour ce meeting du mois de février. Je souhaite le bienvenue et je pense qu'on va avoir un meeting quand même assez long ce soir. Donc, prenez un fauteuil confortable et on va passer la soirée ensemble. On va commencer avec l'ouverture et l'adoption de l'ordre du jour. Est-ce que j'aurais... Oh, excuse. On a besoin de faire un moment de silence. Si on pourrait prendre un moment de silence, s'il vous plaît. Merci. Bon, on va ouvrir la session. We're going to start tonight's meeting with the adoption of the agenda. Est-ce que je pourrais avoir un proposeur?
Oui.
Monsieur Lesage, Monsieur Trudeau. Avant qu'on commence la période de questions, je vais demander pour proposeur pour commencer la période de questions.
Monsieur le maire, à l'ordre du jour, il y a le point 4ZD qui serait à repousser à la prochaine séance.
Merci. Donc, j'ai besoin d'un proposeur pour la période de questions. C'était Mme Duchâtel et M. Leroux.
Oui.
Merci. Avant de commencer avec les questions, j'aimerais juste peut-être faire un suivi de notre réglementation. Je sais que la dernière réunion en janvier, on avait eu beaucoup de questions et beaucoup de questions extrêmement longues que normalement, on aurait peut-être traité différemment. Et donc, aujourd'hui, je vais peut-être lire certaines sections de réglementation sur la période de questions. So I just want to take a moment before we start question period to review some of the bylaws that we have in place in regards to the question period. And I bring this up because last month was excessively long. We had questions that were 4 pages long, very difficult to read. And really, I just want to refresh everybody's understanding of how we proceed in council. And I'm reading from the bylaw, so I'll do this fairly quickly. The public question period at a council meeting is limited to 30 minutes. However, the person presiding the meeting may order the resumption of business on the agenda before that time when is satisfied that all the questions have been dealt with. The question period may be extended if the members present can consent to it and deal with the public's unwanted questions. Donc, en français, la période de questions du public de toute séance de conseil est de 30 minutes. Toutefois, la personne qui préside la séance peut adopter plutôt la reprise des affaires de l'ordre du jour lorsqu'il est satisfait qu'il a été disposé des questions posées, ou la période de questions peut être prolongée si les membres du conseil présents y consentent. Pour permettre de disposer des questions du public qui n'ont pas reçu une réponse. I would also want to add that people must state their family name, their first name, or the name of the organization they represent. That is part of asking that question. So les citoyens doit nous mentionner leur nom, leur prénom et les cas échéants, le nom de l'organisme donc ils représentent. I would also add that questions may only contain words necessary to obtain the information requested. A question would be out of order if it has a pointless preamble, it contains a hypothesis, a deduction, or an attribution of motives, that the answer would require or constitute a professional opinion or personal evaluation. Donc, une question ne doit pas contenir des mots nécessaires pour obtenir des renseignements demandés. Il est recevable à une question qui est précédée d'un préambule inutile qui contient une hypothèse, une déduction, une imputation de motif et donc la réponse exige ou constitue un avis professionnel ou une appréciation personnelle. Donc, je voulais juste reviser ça. Je sais c'est long, mais il faut ramener le point parce que dernièrement, on a eu des très, très longues questions. Je veux aussi mentionner que dans le futur, dans les mois qui viennent, on va aussi faire un ajustement sur notre site web où les citoyens peuvent poser leurs questions directement sur le site web pour le conseil. Et là, on a un espace pour mettre une préambule et une réponse. Ça en vient dans les jours qui viennent. Et même quand ça va impliquer, même quand on va être en présentiel. So, as an added tool for all our citizens in the coming months, we're going to have a web page where someone can ask their question. They don't have to email it in. And there'll be a format. You'll be able to ask 3 questions with a preamble, and you'll have a space to put in your question. So that's coming in the months coming, and it's also going to apply for council meetings when we're in public, which should be next month. Again. Et donc, on va commencer avec la période de questions. La question 1.
Yep, I'll kick us off. This question comes from Margaret Godbeer at 849B Bulgelac Lakeshore. And the question reads, would the city please buy this building for use? I should specify the centrist link that's provided is for 310 Brookhaven, formerly the Dorval Strathmore United Church. Would the city please buy this building for use as a center for community groups and activities? It is a historical building according to city bylaws and should not be allowed to fall into the hands of developers. The community groups that currently use the building could stay, and some of the groups that use the Elizabeth Russell Center could return to Dorval. So, Ms. Godbeer, thank you very much for the question and for the interest in this important kind of element of our community. Just some historic, to give some context to the question and the significance of the different elements of its answer. The congregation of the Dorval Strathmore United Church voted to sell the building almost exactly a year ago. And as soon as we found that out the day after, there were a few measures that the city took. First was to determine that it is zoned public space, so P0336, and there isn't really an intent to change that zoning. So this allows for places of worship, schools, community centers, cemeteries, things like that, but certainly not residential development. So that's the current zoning. And we also asked the church for a list of the community groups that use that space. We then proceeded to reach out to them once we got that list a few months later. We passed that list on to Leisure and Culture Department, asking them to reach out to the groups to try and help them find options. In terms of purchasing the church, I'd spoken a few times with the owners, and they indicated that they had a strong desire to sell it to another religious group. In fact, I mean, it's been on the market for a number of months now. There's several offers. Almost all of them are religious groups. There's been some interest from developers, but I mean, it's been pretty clear that that's not the intent from the seller either. The desire being that, you know, it is a church building. It would serve well as a church for another place of worship, but that would also permit the groups that used it previously or other community groups to continue being able to use it. So I know that some of the groups that were there hope to be able to return when there's a new owner, if the owner is so willing, and I think there's certainly a hope that that'll be the case. The reason they had to move out is because as of December 31st, the current owner, so the United Church of Canada, didn't want to be spending the expense for heating it for the small number of meetings that may or may not be taking place based on COVID restrictions. So there is, the city is trying to support those groups at different venues. And as far as I understand, they have found alternate places to meet for now. And I mean, in terms of whether or not the city should purchase it, I think it's something important to consider, that the city is not just made up, like Dorval, the community is not made up solely from residents and the city, like the city administration. Places of worship, community halls, and groups like the PVCA, these are also important elements to the fabric that creates what Dorval is. And so I don't think the city of Dorval should hold a monopoly over meeting places for community groups. And certainly if there is another church group willing to move into that church and continue providing that service for residents, I don't think that's something we should necessarily interfere with or stop. But indeed, if I can say, if there were no religious groups interested, and that was a different scenario, then I think we'd be having a different conversation. But it does look optimistic that it will continue to be used as a church and hopefully be able to welcome the same or other community groups into its space. So thank you for that question.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Von Reutz. I think very good answer. And I think we're all very happy that a church another church group has stepped in to buy the property. I think that's very good for our community. Question number 2 from Mr. Pellicer.
Mr. Mayor, if I could take this one.
You can.
It is from Fernando Pellicer at 210 Neptune. So there are 2 questions asked here. Number 1, at the last council meeting, my question regarding the need for an archaeological investigation at St. Charles Park, as confirmed by the Plan d'Urbanisme Durable 2015-2031, was responded to by confirmation that the city will undertake the research existing studies and report regarding this question. To follow up on the issue, my question is, has this research begun? If so, who is undertaking it? The city's urban planning department or an external consultant? What documents will be used for this analysis, and if any conclusion has yet been reached? I would like to note that the mayor's response to similar questions asked by another person in saying that St. Charles Park did not have archaeological importance was based on an outdated study from 2004 by the City of Montreal. Dorval's own more recent study used to prepare and develop the Plan d'Urbanisme Durable 2015-2031 clearly shows on page 17, Carte 4, Patrimoine Archéologique, that the waterfront area in the park as being an archaeological importance. So I'll just answer that one first, and then we'll go to number 2. So you are correct, Mr. Pellicer, that the waterfront area is possibly an archaeological importance, not the whole park itself. And so that's one answer. And also, as Mayor Doré has said in the past, there have been many times construction and clearing of in that park, perhaps up to 3 and 4 times, that it's been dug up and reused. And so it is very unlikely that there's anything of archaeological interest in that area of the park. Going to your question number 2, you say that you recently became a member of the Dorval Historic Society and received some documentation regarding the heritage of Dorval. In the booklet, Heritage Guide of Dorval, there's a well-presented listing of buildings and sites of heritage importance. When I compared the list with the city's list of heritage buildings in Chapter 3, Section 32 of the Spite Bylaw RCM 60C 2015, there are 7 buildings which are listed by the Historical Society, which are not listed by the city. So see attached comparison list. You then go on to list the 7 buildings. And you go on to say, these are buildings which help define our built heritage and which we cannot afford to lose in the future. I firmly believe that these 7 buildings should also be included in the city's list of heritage buildings, thus protecting them from the risk of demolition. and help in keeping some of the character defining properties of the city. They would also become eligible for provincial and municipal subsidies if and when available for restoration work. There may be other buildings which are not listed by either the Historical Society or the city and deserve to be protected, but we can debate this point another time. My question is, can the city examine the possibility of these 7 buildings being added to the list of heritage buildings in Chapter 3, Section 32 of the bylaw RCM-60C-2015? Thank you for taking the time to review my questions. You may respond in French if preferred. So we will definitely look at those, and congratulations for becoming a member of the Dorval Historic Society. That's quite exciting. It should be interesting. So we will look at that and we'll take those certainly into consideration. Thank you very much for that question.
Thank you, Mrs. Duchâtel. I just want to reinforce 2 things here that was said, Mr. Pellicer. Number one, when we talk about the park renovation project and saying that you know, parts of it have been dug up before, we're talking about the portion that is north of the basketball court. That has been, we're building, I think, the 4th version of a park there, of a play park area, and that has been heavily worked, which is different than the portion that is south of the tennis courts, for which we're open, and we will investigate seeing what we can do with ground penetrating radar, as has been asked. But I just wanted to differentiate that those two parts of the park are treated very much differently. And ground penetrating radar, we're going to find out what's involved. And Mr. Bobo is going to ask that question to some of our architect friends here in Dorval and see what we can do. The other point I wanted to make up with you is that because you provided a list of homes, Dorval's historic buildings and sites, and I just wanted to follow up. There's homes that are listed by the Historical Society, and then there's homes that are distinguished in our bylaw, and they're not treated the same. A home listed by the Historical Society is of a particular interest by the society, and they recognize it as such, and that's frequently what they show when they go on their tours. They're not they're historical. They have historical interest, but they are not recognized by the government as being historical. The list that exists in our urban plan, though, are recognized in the urban plan. And if anybody wants to purchase and renovate or alter one of these buildings that are defined in the list, it does follow the process of a PEEA. And as part of that process, going to the CCU, we will require une étude de caractérisation de la valeur patrimoniale of the building. That is required because it is defined in our bylaws. And so that means that the CCU will treat it as a historic building, and will make sure that the renovations respect the historic nature of the home. Lastly, there are no historic homes in Dorval or properties that fall under the Ministère de Culture et de Communication, or the MCC. We do not have any properties that fall under that designation at this time. So I just wanted to make that clear, because we use the term historic home in a lot of our discussions, but they mean different things at different times. So thank you for your question. We will go on to question number 3, which is from Mr. Mamoni, and I'll read it. For the Lakeshore Road $25 million project, the businesses have been consulted. When will the citizens be consulted? Also, how will traffic be redirected during the 4-year project? Can someone contact me regarding this matter? I will absolutely reach out to you, Mr. Mamoni, and you can attend one of the presentations that we're going to be having in the next couple of months. We had a presentation for all the property owners in December. Not every one of the property owners did attend, and so I will be meeting with the remaining property owners until we have sign off from every one of them. That's going to take place in the coming months. You'll also see that last week's Journal de Dorval was a very good article in there that explained what the steps we're following, and the project is not 25 million, but it's if we did the whole plan that we presented a few years ago, it could be up to 25 million. I'd say it's more between 20 and 25, depending on what if we do all the steps that was in that original plan. So I will call you for that. Second question is the CHSLD Dorval exempt from the Quebec building code? If no, does it meet local building codes? Can someone contact me for this matter? At the same time, we'll have that discussion. I don't believe that it's exempt from any building codes, but anyways, we can sit down and discuss it. Third question, are the local city council members, city employees and contractors exempt from the speed limit in front of parks and other zones in Dorval? And I would answer to that is no, everybody is the same. I'm not sure what the question was there, if it was just a statement, but no, the speed limit is the same for everybody. And you did, I know it's kind of a fourth question, I'll answer it. It was in regards to salting on the pathway between Jean-Paul Bernier Park and Dawson Road. Look, the weather is very unusual right now. We have extreme cold spells. We have incredible warm spells. We have rain. We have freeze constantly. It's very difficult on all our paths. We have a no salt policy in all our parks. I have on one occasion made an exception this year for the pathways in Millennium and Pine Beach Park because they were very slippery, but we did not use salt. We used abrasives, sand. I will have someone go check that pathway, and if we need to put sand on it, we will. But no, we do not put salt in any of our parks. I think that would be counterintuitive to what we're trying to achieve on the environment side. So thank you very much for your questions. I hope that answered them for you. Question number 4 from Mr. Cornel Fournier. Is someone answering that question?
I'm taking that one, Mr. Mayor. Monsieur Bruno, Cornel Fournier, bonsoir. Merci de vos questions. La première, according to the agenda, section 4, acquisition of lot 1523601 for municipal purpose. Can you tell us, please, which property is being considered? Will the city make a decent offer that cannot be refused? If so, what is the asking price and what will the city offer? Knowing that in the past, the city always offered a purchase under market value, examples such as the McConnell Estate. Je vais répondre à la première question, M. Cornel Fournier. Oui, la cité mandate le directeur général de poursuivre des négociations avec l'agent immobilier et c'est la résidence du 12 Dahlia, résidence des Sœurs, qui a déjà été la première maison du premier maire de Dorval, M. Désiré Giroir, dans les 1880 à peu près. Et puis, effectivement, la cité est intéressée d'acquérir la propriété et puis elle va faire tout son possible pour négocier une entente qui serait favorable à la cité pour l'acquérir. Le prix demandé n'est pas connu comme tel, ce n'est pas annoncé. Et la cité ne peut dévoiler le montant qu'elle offre, évidemment pour fin de négociation, afin que ce montant ne soit pas connu de d'autres personnes intéressées. Et puis en passant, dans le cas du McConnell Estate, la cité avait fait quand même une bonne offre et puis malheureusement, un promoteur avait surenchéré. Deuxième question, if the city purchased the above mentioned property, what will be the future vocation? How will it benefit the citizens of Dorval, and will there be a public consultation? Tout ça sera seulement mis en œuvre quand la cité aura acquis la dite propriété et avec tous les projets en cours, Parc Saint-Charles, le bord du lac et ainsi de suite. C'est évident qu'on parle d'un projet pour les années 2023, 2024. Et à ce moment-là, toutes les procédures, toutes les étapes suivront le cours et la vocation et ainsi de suite. Alors, on vous remercie pour votre intérêt dans cette démarche de la cité et bonne soirée à vous, M. Bruno. Merci bien.
Merci, M. Trudeau, pour le bon résumé. C'est sûr que ce conseil était très intéressé dans cette propriété qui est formidable, si vous l'avez vu. Et la maison est spectaculaire. Et donc, c'est sûr, on va faire notre possible pour accueillir le terrain pour nos citoyens et éventuellement faire les rénovations à la maison historique si on peut. Question numéro 5 de M. Roland.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I will take that one.
Oh,
So
madame,
the
excuse, c'est Madame Roland.
So the question is from Madame Roland at 1015 Fifth Avenue. Good day, Madame Bilodeau, and respectfully request that you add the following question to the council question period. Many thanks in advance. My question is regarding to the application of the minor exception to zoning bylaw RCM 60A-2015. Thank you, Mr. Lesage, for promising to get back to me on the issue next week. However, since it is unclear whether the council may vote on it tonight, I still would like for my question be expressed tonight. Having a goal of 1.45 car per dwelling is very honorable, since it is a line with objective of 4 Sustainable Master Plan 2015 and to 2031. However, I am very concerned about the clutter in the streets that will result from reducing the residential parking ratio from 1.75 to 1.45, since facts prove otherwise. So, Mrs. Rowland, thank you for your question. You're right. We all have concerns and we understand what you're talking about. The council is well aware of this situation, and we are deeply questioning what the needs are, okay? And we must relook at it. So again, thank you very much for your concerns, and we will talk very shortly and give you a bit more information. Thank you.
Thank you, Monsieur Lesage, and I will be joining you on the call with Madame Roland as well. So I'll come soon. Question number 6 from Madame Cournoyer. Okay, I'll read the question. The question is, I would like to ask for an update on St. Charles Park citizens consultation as the COVID-19 restrictions are being lifted. Will it be possible to have consultation with the public present? Will there be a real consultation where citizens can have real input as opposed to a presentation of what the city has already decided? If there's a real consultation, can you give me 5 examples of areas where citizens will have real input? Well, we're going to have a real consultation, Mrs. Cournoyer, that's for sure. We're going to show a vision of what the park is. We've always said that. And we're going to have a discussion period with the citizens. Originally, it was going to be on Zoom, and where we would have had breakout groups, and then people could have consulted and discussed the project amongst groups with an animator from our leisure and culture team. However, due to the staffing situation here, where we have some of the key employees involved on vacation. We will hold off presenting it this month, and we'll present in public, hopefully at the beginning of March. So, I mean, that's how a presentation works. We have some back and forth, and residents will have the opportunity to tell us what they think of our presentation, what they would see differently, and interact with us that way. So I hope that answers your question. Also, as the lakeshore has been inhabited continuously over the last 4,000 years, and that the report of the City of Montreal on the sites of archaeological interest made in 2005 when Dorval was part of the agglomeration indicates Park St. Charles area as an area of interest. With this, will the city undertake a survey of the park with ground penetrating radar to see if there is any buried archaeological vestiges of interest that should be set aside for future investigation before the investigation proceeds? What follow-up is being, okay, so that's your second question. So I think I've answered that, Mrs. Cornway, or we've answered that already. I have in front of me the document that you're referring to. I've read it many times. St. Charles Park on the maps is not identified as a historic area. The St. Charles Street environment is, with the exception of land that borders the waterfront, which is mentioned in the document. And many of those areas are built with houses. Again, I'm going to come back to what we replied earlier. The portion of the park that's north of the chalet or the basketball court has been renovated, to our knowledge, at least, or had major construction at least 3 times since the 60s. It's been dug many times to replace units. And there's no real chance that we're going to find anything there. We have a number of infrastructure underground as well, including sewer, water, electrical. So we're not going to find anything there. What I will concede is that we will do it in phase 2. And as I mentioned, Mr. Bourbeau will investigate where we can get this equipment, and it will be part of the phase 2 part of the park renovations in probably 2020, 2023. Mr. Trudeau spoke about acquiring the Cadvan property, and that's an area where that sort of technology could also be used there, even though part of the property has been done up to dig to build the annex. Some of it is underground. There is a large part of the property that has never been developed. And I want to say that when we do the gardener's house, with the grant that we receive from the government, this is a mandatory step as well. It's conditional. It's conditional for getting the grant, and we will do it in Pine Beach Park, where we feel, like I'm sure you do, that area hasn't been dug up in the past. It's been left as is for as long as we can all remember, and so maybe it's interesting to do it there as well. So more to come on that. Your last question: what follow-up is being done to make sure that there are historical plaques placed in the park, informing them of the history of the park and its adjacent streets, St. Charles and Martin? Right now, we are contemplating this. There's no, I like the idea very much. What we need to find out is where are we going to put them. They will probably be in a triangle of space between the pump house, where the pumping station is, and the corner of St. Charles and Val-du-Lac. That is not, we've never really talked about that, because that is renovation work that the city of Dorval will undertake separately from the park project. However, we do need to tie in the entry to the park to what the park project is, and restore the beautiful wall that exists there. And I suspect that that will be the location where we can put some of these either historical plaques or boards that we have similar to the ones at the library. And we may even honor one of our citizens here who's a para-Olympian in that area as well. I think that makes a lot of sense. So something that we will keep you abreast of in the coming months. Thank you for your question. I think the next question is from, excuse me. Mr. Nazola, question 7. So I will read the question. Last month, you left out a sentence in one of my questions because you deemed it inappropriate. Then you proceeded to answer my question in a manner that I felt was offensive to me. I felt as if you were trying to make me look like a fool by stating that the last 2 access of information replies I received by the city email were not even opened. Those 2 emails came last fall during the campaign election. I am a very busy person. I'm not a paid full-time activist. These emails contain information that I can use at a later time. The emails were filed and will be read when I have time and when a related topic comes up. The issue that you and your DG has with my access to information request is that it reveals details on the management of the city affairs. You are no longer able to give the same corrupt company contracts every 3 years to repave the basketball courts, the tennis courts, the parking lots, etc. Now you are being held accountable by some of your decisions. So here comes the actual question. Will you stop putting the biased twist on your answers from questions asked by citizens of the city of Dorval? So the answer is that I answer the city and anybody's questions with the respect that it deserves, and I don't make biased comments. I reply them with the information that I have at the time, and that's it. Question number 2. I have mentioned several times in the past that the city should approach owners of properties in areas of strategic importance to our master plan, our green spaces, and the quality of life of our citizens. One such property is at 380 Bal-du-Lac. The property seems mostly vacant and inactive for some time. It has recently been sold to developers. It is on the corner of St. Charles Avenue at the eastern entrance of the Dorval Village. It is in front of St. Charles Park. Its backyard extends into the park. Your question is, has the city ever approached the owner of this property to show interest in acquiring it? Will the city immediately start the expropriation process before the new owner start making plans to build a massive building on the site, which will pollute this landmark location? That's your question. My answer is the following. The city is always open to investigating properties that have a huge interest for the residents of Dorval. And I think the fact that we're looking at the property on Dahlia is a commitment that we feel that property should be acquired by the city. I'm not sure what that cost will be, but we are all very aware that that house that remains there, Les Quatre Vents, is a very important property. It needs to be reserved, preserved. I have seen the inside of that house, and I can tell you that the first and the second floor are extraordinary, and we need to save that building for what it is and be able to show it to the citizens, as it gives a very good view of what life was in the early 1900s. I think we will do whatever we can, but that demonstrates that there are properties that are important. It's a fantastic green space. It has a fantastic view of the eastern tip of Dorval Island, and it's worth preserving, and we're committed to that. Am I going to start an expropriation process at 380 Bald-du-Lac and expropriate a property that has multiple businesses on the ground floor? Maybe they're empty, maybe they're not, and demolish residential apartments that are upstairs? No, I don't think that that's in the cards, and I don't think that that's exactly what the residents of Dorval expect from council either. I see in tonight's agenda, this is question number 3. I see in tonight's agenda, you are renewing the grass cutting contracts for this year. A few months ago, I inquired about why the city was paying extra fees for grass cutting to the contractor who had the maintenance contract. It was about a 15% increase of the total value of the contract. Extra costs paid to the contractor are not part of the tendering process. They are usually excessive amounts of money paid for very little service provided. Every fall, we pay for summer maintenance contractors extra fees, and every spring, the previous mayor stated, we had lots of snow in the winter, even when the winters where the snow was below average. And it continues on as we have to pay the contractors their extra. How do you intend to ensure that this year you find a way to close the loopholes and stop paying contractors extra fees? Well, Mr. Nuzzola, you know, we're council, we discussed these things. We were reviewing a contract tonight. And I think our administration and our employees work very hard to making sure that the contracts are being respected. Yes, there are some contracts that are sometimes can fluctuate, maybe because the city asked for extra work to be done, and maybe it's the weather. I mean, if it rains heavily in the summer, maybe we have to cut the grass in our parks more often. If it snows an unusually high amount, maybe we have to have multiple snow removal programs more than we expected. So there will always be fluctuations. I know that Mr. Bobo, his directors and their employees work very hard at making sure that all our contractors are doing what we contract them to do. So at that point, I hope I've answered all your questions. The only thing I'm going to come back to is that the 380 Lakeshore, you say before, you said in your question before they built a huge building there. I just want to point out that it is zoned for 3 stories maximum. It's 2 already. It's in a zoning where we allow residential and at least one home for family. It can be 3 stories, so they could add an extra level if they wanted to. It's also zoned for commercial and services. And it's also zoned as a place for culture, recreation, and leisure activities. And we know that because there's an art gallery there. I believe there's an artist who sells paintings there. So it cannot be turned into a huge building. It's zoned for 3 stories at the most. So hopefully I responded to all your questions in a manner that we can all agree was appropriate. Next question, question 8 from Mrs. Weir.
So I'll take this one, Mr. Dore. Good evening. My name is Nancy Weir. I've been a resident living on Glengarry Place for over 45 years. I'm a proud Dorval resident. My question is regarding the building of the former Dorval Strathmore Church located on Brookhaven. I understand that this is a Dorval Heritage Building. I know this church very well as I was a member since 1975. This building has great potential. There's a very large, well-equipped kitchen, a large hall with a stage, and many other rooms that could be well used. I realize it needs some updating, but would be a great community center for various groups in the area. It would be perfect for receptions, private parties, etc. It's very difficult to reserve the Surrey Centre or Sarto Centre as it is booked well in advance. Would the city consider looking into purchasing this beautiful building for Dorval residents, as well as others from various cities? Thank you for taking my question, Nancy Weir, Glengarry. So, Ms. Weir, thank you for your question. I don't have too much more to add to what I said to Mrs. Godbeer's question earlier. I mean, you're absolutely right. There's potential for this building, and I think that was seen for the last 70 odd years that it's existed where it is. And I think the hope is that it can continue to provide services for the community, but not necessarily. I don't think it has to be a city building in order to do that. I'd also add, because I didn't mention it earlier, one of the concerns that the council has, you know, if we were to have to go that route to protect the space, would be the lack of parking. There are 2 other churches or community centers on Brookhaven in addition to the Dorval Strathmore United one. And while the residents on Brookhaven are very patient, I think turning it into a full-fledged community center around the clock, or not around the clock, but within the normal operating hours of community centers, could be challenging given that there's no parking available there. All that said, you know, I defer to my earlier answer that I am optimistic that it will continue to be a community hub in our area. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Von Moritz. Next question is question 9 from Mr. Dern.
Yeah, which I'll take as well. Hello, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Leroux, and the rest of City Council. The month of June is LGBTQ2S Pride Month around the world, and it is a time when communities across Canada begin celebrating Pride season. That's the period between June and September when LGBTQ2 communities and allies come together to spotlight the resilience, talent, and contributions of LGBTQ2S people to their communities. The City of Dorval has many lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, and two-spirit citizens, families, and employees. These people each contribute in their own special ways to the vibrancy and diversity of our community. Our town's LGBTQ2S citizens contribute to it being great to live in Dorval every day. As such, I'm requesting that you and councillors pass a motion at an upcoming meeting to declare June 2022 as the City of Dorval's first LGBTQ2S Pride Month, and to fly the Pride flag at Dorval at City Hall and at the city's 2 community centers. Thank you in advance for your support on this important matter, and I look forward to hearing from you. Best regards, Sean, as Mr. Doran mentioned, Sean Dern resides at 2240 Partridge. So, Mr. Dern, thank you very much for bringing this up and flagging this important recognition within the community. I think I speak for the whole council that this is definitely something that we've been interested in promoting. The exact logistics of it, though, you know, is it raising a flag? Are there other appropriate actions we can take to recognize LGBTQ2S Pride Month? I think it's something we want to have a discussion with. So somebody from council will be reaching out to you to have that conversation. But I'm optimistic that we can find some way of celebrating the start of Pride season. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Von Moritz and Mr. Dern. It will probably be me who will contact you. I appreciate your email. I appreciate where you're coming from. I just want to make sure that we communicate with you, that we understand better what we'd like to do. And we want to make sure that whatever we do is meaningful and has an impact. So we will communicate with you and possibly other citizens, residents of Dorval. And we will come up with something that I think you'll be proud of. Next and last question is from Mrs. Jones. I think Madame Bilodeau is going to read it for us, and I will answer.
Est-ce qu'on a fait la question, Monsieur Savage?
Oh, apologies.
Yeah.
No, it's apologies. I'm going to, Mr. Savage, I have your question. We don't usually take questions from at council from reporters. And so I'm not going to read or answer your question. However, I was contacted today by our manager of communications telling me that someone from CBC wanted to have an interview with me. And I'm wondering if that is you. Today was not the day on council day to be doing interviews, but I plan to get back to that person, whoever that is, you or someone else, to take your questions. I also maybe remember that someone, and it could be you as well, in the last week or two, asked the very same question and we replied back with exactly all the initiatives that are being done by the city of Dorval. And so if you're that same person, then I'm not sure how we're going to add to that question, as I think it was very well researched and well documented. But if you want to reach out to me at City Hall tomorrow, I'll be happy to speak with you. So that is Mr. Savage's question. So now last question of Mrs. Jones.
Yes, so a question from Vicky Jones from 350 Baldy-Lac Lakeshore. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and councilors. I've noticed that since the new administration, the way that the urbanism item number 6 is presented as changed. It used to be that all the items for consideration would be listed. Now there is just a single item showing, like today in 6C, approval of site planning and architectural integration programs, recommendations of the Planning Advisory Committee of February 14, 2022. In keeping with the promise to be transparent, it would certainly be a benefit to not only the citizens, but also to the city by allowing the articles to be reviewed in advance of the council meeting. Will you consider reverting back to the previous format for ease of access for the citizens?
Mrs. Jones, I'll take your question under consideration, and I'll speak with our Director of Urban Planning. I'm not sure that either format is different. I think they're both the same. They're just a lot less reading for the public, but I will take your question under consideration and get back to you on that.
Question number 2, with regard to the demolition bylaw number RCM-4-2005, it is stated in chapter 2, all committee meetings shall be public when the committee is carrying out the functions normally assigned to a committee created by virtue of section 412.23 of the Act to study applications for the demolition of a building. I understand that you have and post an audio recording of the meeting after the fact. However, can you say why the meetings are not public in real time, and can they be made so in the future?
Thank you for your second question. Yes, the recording is made and it's placed on our website the following morning. Going forward, we will return to our pre-COVID situation where the people will be able to attend the demolition committee meeting and will be able to see the documents at the same time as the meeting is being held. So that's how we're going to go back to our normal proceedings now that the sanitary measures are being restricted.
Question number 3, regarding the demolition of 170 Allard, which you are going to vote on to have demolished this evening. How is it remotely possible that a building in good condition, according to an assessment, justified $333,313 to repair? Are they talking about modernization, like using the cost as a renovation? This seriously needs to have a second opinion. With regard to the demolition, in zoning bylaw number RCM 68-2015, it stipulates protection of trees during construction work. Will the trees be protected? And if not, why not?
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Jones. I'm kind of looking at your question here. So there's kind of two questions in here, and you're talking about the process behind the report that is being made. We have these reports generated by a third party. They're not us here. They're not employees at the city, and we don't let the homeowners generate their own report, as that would be a little bit in conflict. So we mandate a firm to prepare the documentation so that you've read the reports clearly, you understand what's in them, and that's the information that we use to make our decisions. The decision is made with urban planning, and it's made with the council members. Do we need a second opinion? Then really, I don't think a second opinion is required. We're making the decision that is appropriate on any given given demolition meeting. With regards to the second portion of the question for protecting trees, I want to be very clear, because somehow I think sometimes that people maybe lose fact of the fact that there is no permit that is being given out tonight or next week or in the coming months. The only time a demolition permit is granted and given to the property owner is when their new renovation project or their new build project has been approved by the CCU and approved by council. And that is when, during that process, the CCU review process, where they will discuss whether or not trees should be staved, can be cut, all of these details. That comes up when we discuss the new building. So at this point, nothing is going to take place on that property until the new replacement project is approved, and we are probably months away from that. It has not even been deposited for us. So I suspect that that building will be there and maintained over the winter, and there will be no trees cut down, and there will be no demolition for quite a few months. If you have any other questions about that, please reach out, and maybe we can discuss it over the phone, or maybe I can have our director of urban planning review that with you. So thank you everyone for all your questions. So merci à tout le monde pour toutes vos questions, des très bonnes questions. J'ai aimé le fait qu'ils n'étaient pas trop longs. C'est excellent. Donc, avec ça, on va continuer avec le meeting ce soir. Parce que j'ai juste besoin de réouvrir les dossiers. Donc, on commence avec 3A.
Je propose, Monsieur le maire, d'approuver le procès-verbal de la séance du 17 janvier 2022 tel que rédigé.
Donc, c'était le point 2A. OK. Donc,
Ouais, excusez-moi.
avec un proposeur, s'il vous plaît.
J'appuie. On fait le compte rendu? Oui.
3B, s'il vous plaît.
Donc, 3, là.
3A.
3.
Monsieur le maire, Paul Trudeau, je donne l'avis de motion à l'effet de proposer à une séance ultérieure du conseil le règlement RCM 89-2022 sur la gestion contractuelle aux fins d'établir les modes de sollicitation des offres et de passation des contrats octroyés dans la cité, de favoriser les biens et services québécois et d'introduire diverses dispositions exigées par la loi, et dépose le dit projet de règlement.
Est-ce que j'ai... Oh non, c'est une motion, ça, on n'a pas besoin d'un appui. Là, j'aimerais, pour ceux qui ont des questions, vous pouvez venir demander à la greffe cette semaine pour ce règlement. C'est un règlement très important pour la cité, et ça fait longtemps qu'on avait besoin de compléter ce document. J'aimerais féliciter tous les efforts de M. Trudeau dans les 3 derniers mois et les travaux de Mme Bilodeau. C'est un nouveau règlement. Ça remplace un ancien règlement, et c'était tout un effort. So, merci à vous deux. Le 3B.
Oui, Monsieur le maire, ce serait pour adopter le règlement RCM 88-2022 établissant les codes d'éthique et déontologie des élus municipaux de la cité de Dorval tels qu'amendés.
Je seconde.
Merci. 3C.
Mr. Mayor, I propose that we adopt as submitted bylaw RCM 86-2022 on the taxation of municipal services for the 2022 fiscal year.
Thank you. Merci. Est-ce qu'on a un secondaire,
Monsieur le maire,
Monsieur Lesage? Le 3D,
Monsieur le maire, je propose d'adopter le règlement RCM 80.1-2022, modifiant le règlement RCM 80-2020 sur l'administration des réseaux d'eau potable et d'égouts aux fins de mieux définir la protection des lots de drainage, d'exclure les servitudes de l'application de certaines restrictions et d'étendre le pouvoir d'autorisation des dérogations conférées au directeur des travaux publics à l'ensemble du règlement.
Je seconde.
merci. Le 3E, est-ce qu'on a d'autres questions pour le directeur général? Non? Excellent. Dans les contrats, le 4A,
Monsieur le maire, je propose que le conseil confirme son accord à ce que les travaux de réfection des trottoirs, de chaussée et de pavage de l'avenue Chanteclerc entre le boulevard des Sources et l'avenue des Lauriers, incluant l'abandon des conduites d'eau potable de la cité de Dorval située entre le cul-de-sac de l'avenue Chanteclerc vers l'est et la conduite de 450 mm de diamètre sise sur les terrains d'ADM, soit intégrée aux travaux de la ville de Pointe-Claire et à être effectués en 2022 par la ville de Montréal. Ainsi que la cité d'Orval s'engage à rembourser à la Ville de Montréal sa part des coûts pour la partie des travaux effectués sur son territoire, incluant le coût des services professionnels de conception au montant de 22 222,41 $, toutes taxes comprises. Ainsi d'autoriser le maire et la greffière à signer pour et au nom de la Ville une entente entre la cité d'Orval, la Ville de Pointe-Claire et la Ville de Montréal selon les termes et conditions de l'entente jointe au dossier décisionnel 2022-02 16971 ou tout autre terme ou condition qui sera jugé dans l'intérêt des parties et finalement d'autoriser la signature de tout autre document donnant effet à la présente résolution.
Je seconde.
merci. Intéressant qu'on est capable de coordonner les trois villes ensemble et ça va sauver des sous pour tout le monde.
Ouais, les travaux ne sont pas effectués encore. Mais c'est bien.
Monsieur le maire, si vous vous permettez, cette résolution-là, c'est dans le cadre du projet de Montréal de délester notre usine de filtration éventuellement. Donc, c'est un bouclage d'aqueducs qu'ils font avec Pointe-Claire. Voilà.
Oui, merci pour les détails, M. Bourbeau. Le 4B, s'il vous plaît.
Monsieur le maire, je propose d'autoriser l'émission d'un bon de commande à l'entreprise Service de gestion Bernard Depeyre pour des services d'accompagnement technique pour l'implantation d'un programme d'entretien préventif et correctif dans le cadre de l'élaboration d'un devis de gestion, d'exploitation, d'entretien et opération de 3 centres aquatiques extérieurs au montant global de 13 797, toutes taxes comprises, conformément à son offre de service du 12 janvier 2022.
Appuyez, monsieur le maire.
Merci. 4C, logiciel de gestion de temps.
yes, Mr. Mayor, it would be to authorize the payment of Comsoft Technology, Inc., Fidelio, annual usage rights for 2022 in a total amount of $50,474.03, tax included.
Un appuyeur. M. Van Roerts. Merci. 4D, renouvellement de couverture d'assurance.
Oui, monsieur le maire, je propose d'autoriser le paiement à BFL Canada Risque et Assurance Incorporée de la facture émise le 20 janvier 2022 au montant de 88 196,34 $, toutes taxes comprises, représentant le coût de renouvellement des couvertures d'assurance en biens, prix d'équipement et délits de la cité d'Orval pour la période du 1er janvier 2022 au 1er janvier 2023.
Je seconde.
M. Leroux, merci. 4E, fourniture et livraison de carburant diesel.
I propose we authorize the issuing of a purchase order to Product Suncor Energy SNC for the supply and delivery of clear diesel fuel for a total of 901 206 901 260 all tax included for the period of February 1st, 2022 to January 1st, 2024, with the option to renew annually for each of the 3 following years.
I
Second.
second, Mr. Mayor.
Monsieur Lassage appuie. Merci. 4F, acquisition de biens.
Monsieur le maire, je propose que la Cité de Dorval soit autorisée à se joindre au regroupement d'achat de pneus pour divers véhicules, d'équipements TI et de cartouches d'encre pour imprimantes, et que le centre d'acquisition gouvernementale soit mandaté pour gérer les ententes qui découleront de ces regroupements d'achat.
Depuis, M. le maire.
Cela nous amène des escomptes importants avec des achats.
C'est ça. Merci. 4G, autorisation de paiement. Paiement, service d'aménagement.
Monsieur le maire, je propose d'autoriser le paiement des factures émises en date du 28 décembre 2021 et du 23 janvier 2022 par l'entreprise Surfaçage Expert AMB 2015 Inc. pour les services d'aménagement, d'enneigement et d'entretien de la butte à glisser à l'Aréna Dorval au montant totalisant 22 420 et 12 sous, toutes taxes comprises.
Je seconde.
Monsieur Leroux appuie. Merci. 4H, autorisation de paiement.
Mr. Mayor, I propose that we authorize the payment of all bills received from Enterprise Accès Location Plus, representing the costs for the rental of a boom lift 6063 feet of the Skyjack brand for the period from October 15th, 2021 to January 11th, 2022, in order to respond to the needs of the Public Works Department within the Division of Parks and Environments and for building services, including the setup of the Dorval Christmas Market, which took place in December 2021, for a total amount of $16,688.07, all taxes included.
Wait a second.
Madame Duchâtel, merci. 4I, entretien des aires de jeu pour la saison 2022.
Oui, Monsieur le maire, je propose d'autoriser l'émission d'un bon de commande à les entreprises MPSR enregistrées pour les services d'entretien annuel des aires de jeu de la Cité de Dorval au montant global de 18 698 toutes taxes comprises pour la saison 2022, conformément à son offre de service datée du 25 janvier 2022.
Depuis, M. le maire.
Ah, allez-y. Il appuie parce qu'il a appris que ça inclut le désherbage de son bocce.
Thanks, Christopher.
Merci, merci, Monsieur Von Royce.
Non, donne ça à M. Trudeau.
4G, service professionnel.
Monsieur le maire, je propose d'autoriser l'émission des bons de commande ouverts au cabinet d'avocats suivants pour des fins d'assistance juridique en matière de relations de travail et de droit de l'emploi sur demande pour 2022. Premièrement, cabinet Fasken Avocat pour un montant ne dépassant pas 75 000 toutes taxes comprises, dont 24 999 pour des consultations générales et 50 000 pour des dossiers de litige impliquant la cité. Deuxièmement, cabinet Loranger Marcoux pour un montant ne dépassant pas 12 000 toutes taxes comprises pour des consultations générales et 2 000 toutes taxes comprises pour les litiges en matière d'équité salariale. Troisièmement, GRHMQ pour un montant ne dépassant pas 2 000 toutes taxes comprises pour des consultations générales en matière de droit de l'emploi.
J'appuie.
Merci, M. Von Royce. 4K, location de balais aspirateur.
Oui, Monsieur le maire, je propose d'autoriser le renouvellement pour la 4e et dernière année d'option du contrat TP 2018-01 accordé à l'entreprise Ballet Pro Inc. pour la location d'un balai aspirateur et un camion citerne avec opérateur pour l'année 2022 au montant global de 25 121 et 55 sous, toutes taxes comprises.
Je seconde.
Merci, M. Leroux. 4L, travaux de marquage de la chaussée.
Mr. Mayor, I motion the authorization to renew for the second optional year contract TP 2020-07 to Enterprise TRA 2011 Inc. for road marking work, bike paths, and interior and exterior parking lots for the city of Dorval for the year 2022 with a total cost of $231,223.22, all taxes included.
J'appuie, Monsieur le maire.
Merci, M. Trudeau. 4M, nettoyage de tontes de gazon dans les parcs et espaces verts.
Maire, je propose d'autoriser le renouvellement pour la deuxième et dernière année d'option du contrat TP 2020-12 accordé à les entreprises Tony DeFeo Inc. pour le nettoyage et la tonte de gazon des parcs et des espaces verts publics sur le territoire de la cité de Dorval pour l'année 2022 au montant global de 347 447 $ et 42 sous, toutes taxes comprises.
Puis, Monsieur le maire.
Merci, M. Lesage. 4M, rinçage unidirectionnel.
Je propose, Monsieur le maire, d'autoriser le renouvellement pour la première année d'option du contrat TP 2020-26 accordé à la firme Simo Management Inc. pour le rinçage unidirectionnel et de la recherche des fuites sur le réseau d'aqueduc pour l'année 2022 au montant de 46 117 $ et 39 sous, toutes taxes comprises, plus ajustement selon l'indice du prix à la consommation.
J'appuie.
M. Von Reutz, merci. 4N,
Je propose, Monsieur le maire, d'autoriser le maire et la greffière à signer pour et au nom de la cité une entente avec la Fédération canadienne des municipalités, FCM, visant l'obtention de l'aide financière approuvée dans le cadre du programme de gestion des actifs.
J'appuie. Ça, c'est un suivi de motion qu'on avait fait pour appliquer pour cette entente en mois de novembre 2021.
merci. 4P, autorisation de signature d'une entente avec la ville de Dollard-des-Ormeaux.
Une autre entente avec d'autres villes. Donc, je propose cette fois-ci d'autoriser le maire et la greffière à signer pour et au nom de la cité une entente avec la ville de Dollard-des-Ormeaux portant sur les travaux de resurfaçage du boulevard Saint-Régis à l'est de la rue Sunnybrook, selon les termes et conditions apparaissant au projet d'entente joint au dossier décisionnel 2022-02-17177 ou tout autre terme et conditions qui sera jugé dans l'intérêt de la cité.
2 secondes. J'appuie.
Madame Duchâtel, merci. 4Q, service d'ouverture et fermeture du terrain de club de tennis municipal.
Je propose, Monsieur le maire, d'autoriser le renouvellement pour l'année 2022 du contrat LC 2021-1 accordé à l'entreprise Avantage Court Inc. pour exécuter les travaux d'ouverture et de fermeture de 8 terrains de tennis en art-trou au club de tennis municipal de Dorval au montant de 17 347 $ et 43 sous, toutes taxes comprises.
J'appuie.
Merci, M. Von Reutz. 4R, service professionnel d'actuariat.
Monsieur le maire, je propose de retenir les services professionnels de la firme Aon pour effectuer le mandat de production des renseignements complémentaires ainsi que les écritures comptables reliées au régime de retraite des employés de la cité en lien avec la fermeture des états financiers et la préparation du budget de la cité de Dorval pour un montant global de 24 978 et 32, toutes taxes comprises, conformément à son offre de service du 4 février 2022.
Je seconde.
Merci. M. Leroux. 4S. 4A, c'était la résiliation de la convention d'usage entre la cité et le club de poids et haltères de Dorval.
Vous pouvez de le lire, mais j'ai un petit problème technique présentement.
Quelqu'un d'autre, s'il vous plaît?
Suggère?
Allez-y.
Attendu que le Club de poids et haltères Dorval est un organisme à but non lucratif dûment incorporé en vertu de la partie 3 de la loi sur les compagnies, chapitre C-38. Attendu qu'en date du 1er juillet 2018, une convention d'usage est intervenue entre la Cité de Dorval et le Club de poids et d'haltères Dorval, par laquelle les parties convenaient que le club opère le gym localisé au complexe aquatique et sportif d'Orval selon les termes et conditions prévus à la convention. Attendu que la convention d'usage s'est renouvelée pour une période de 3 ans en date du 1er juillet 2019, mais que le président du club a avisé les représentants concernés de la ville qu'il souhaitait mettre fin à ces opérations. Je propose que la convention d'usage intervenue entre la Cité de Dorval et le Club de poids et haltères Dorval, intervenue en date du 1er juillet 2018, soit résiliée à compter du 22 février 2022. Et je propose que le conseil confirme son accord à ce que le gym localisé au complexe aquatique et sportif d'Orval soit opéré par la ville de Dorval à compter de cette même date.
Monsieur le maire, je vais m'abstenir de voter puisque j'ai été sur le conseil d'administration du club de poids et haltères jusqu'à tout dernièrement.
Très bien, M. Leroux. C'est noté.
Oui, Monsieur le maire.
Approuvé, M. Leroux, merci. Ah, le sage, excuse. J'aimerais dire à ce point-ci, je vais commencer en anglais. It's very important that everybody understands that the Club de poids et haltères will be ceasing operations. However, everybody who has a remaining membership, their remaining days, weeks, months, whatever, will be honored by the city of Dorval, and so there will be no penalty. And as of the opening date, which is expected to be March 7th, residents of Dorval will be able to purchase a new membership. The details of all of this will be made available to all of you on the website in the next, I would say, week to 10 days. So if you need any questions, you will be able to go to the aquatic complex and ask questions. Not tomorrow morning, but maybe wait until the beginning of March, where the information will be widely available. Donc, c'est important à noter que le Club de poids et haltères va cesser ses opérations et l'espace, qui est connu comme le gym d'exercice, va être géré par la ville de Dorval. Tous les membres qui ont un membership aujourd'hui, c'est possible qu'il reste des jours, des semaines ou des mois dans votre membership. Et donc, ça va être appliqué directement dans nos systèmes. So, pas perte de jours au gym. Et on attend que le gym va ouvrir le 7 mars. Les détails vont être publiés dans les 7 à 10 prochains jours. Et donc, si vous avez des questions, vous pouvez vous présenter au centre aquatique vers le début mars si vous avez des questions. Sinon, ça va être sur notre site web. J'espère que ça explique bien la situation. 4T. Encore un principe en vue de l'acquisition du lot 1523601 qui est connu comme la propriété des 4 vents.
Oui, entendu, Monsieur le maire, que le lot 1523601 avec bâtiment ci-dessus érigé a été mis en vente. Attendu qu'une partie du dit bâtiment connu comme étant la résidence 4 vents et ayant appartenu au premier maire de Dorval en 1892, M. Désiré Giroir, est identifié comme étant patrimonial au règlement sur les plans d'implantation et d'intégration architecturale de la cité de Dorval, RCM 60A-2015, en raison de ses possibles caractéristiques architecturales et de la qualité du site sur lequel il se trouve. Attendu l'intérêt de la cité d'acquérir le site à des fins municipales, ici on parle bien du 12 Dahlia pour la population s'ils veulent situer la propriété, ancienne résidence des Sœurs. Alors, je propose que le conseil donne un accord de principe pour l'acquisition par la cité de Dorval à des fins municipales du lot 1523601 et du bâtiment ci-dessus érigé. En fait, M. le maire, on parle de deux bâtiments. Il y a le manoir qui est la maison originale et l'annexe qui a été construite en 1956, un édifice de 4 étages en briques. Et je propose aussi que le directeur général soit autorisé à engager des négociations avec les propriétaires du site ou le courtier immeuble désigné en vue de l'acquisition du lot 1523601 et qu'il soit autorisé à signer pour et au nom de la cité une lettre d'intention ou une promesse d'achat pour un montant et aux conditions à être déterminées suivant une visite et inspection des lieux ainsi qu'une analyse du marché.
J'appuie avec la passion pour celui-ci.
Merci, M. Von Reutz. Propriété très importante dans l'histoire de la ville de Dorval et M. Bobo va négocier, j'espère, avec grand succès. 4U, service professionnel en architecture.
Monsieur le
Je
maire, je
propose-
propose. Go ahead, Nicole. Go ahead.
Monsieur le maire, d'approuver les avenants 1, 2 et 3 au contrat octroyé à l'entreprise Service EXP Inc. pour un montant ne dépassant pas 20 504 sous, toute taxe comprise, dans le cadre du projet de réaménagement du parc Saint-Charles, phase 1.
Secondaire.
J'appuie. Ah, Monsieur le Sage,
Monsieur Lesage. Merci, Monsieur Lesage. Et j'aimerais juste dire ici que la firme EXP est le gestionnaire professionnel de notre projet du parc, rénovation du parc Saint-Charles. Et donc, comme le projet a changé, on a demandé plus d'expertise et dans le vue du projet, et on a demandé des dessins techniques pour la présentation. Et donc, j'espère qu'on va tous voir ça dans les semaines qui viennent. Le 4V, service, installation et entretien des ruches d'abeilles.
Oui, monsieur le
Attendu.
maire, je propose d'autoriser M. Serge Saint-André, directeur de loisirs et culture, à signer pour et au nom de la cité de Dorval le contrat de service Abéolé Montréal Inc. pour un montant global de 14 831,80 $, toutes taxes comprises.
Je seconde.
Ben, je suis déçu qu'on ne pourrait pas le faire en anglais.
Moi, j'appuie pour Westwood, toi appuie pour voyons,
La bibliothèque.
bâtiment. Pour la bibliothèque.
Je voulais faire un blague des abeilles, mais regarde.
Ah, ben, OK.
Le 4W, autorisation de paiement.
Mr. Mayor, I authorize the payment of bill number 15197 to Cooperative d'Architecture Pivot for the additional professional services for the period of May 31st to November 28th, 2021, in the context of the repair of and masonry of the City Hall brickwork walls for a total amount not exceeding $13,797.60, all taxes included.
A seconder, please.
Je seconde.
Merci, M. Leroux. And we look forward to this project coming to an end fairly soon, hopefully. We're almost there.
You have your office.
It's fully functional for once. Yeah. 4X, autorisation de signature de acte de servitude.
Je propose, M. le maire, d'autoriser le maire et la greffière à signer pour et au nom de la cité de Dorval un acte de servitude à intervenir entre deux syndicats de copropriété et la cité de Dorval. le tout selon les termes et conditions d'opération au projet d'un acte de servitude joint au dossier décisionnel 2022-2-17-205 ou tout autre acte ou document donnant effet à l'entente relative à des travaux municipaux intervenus le 14 décembre 2011 entre la Cité de Dorval et Espace MV3 SEC.
J'appuie, M. le maire.
M. Trudeau, merci. Et ça, c'est tout simplement pour officialiser quelque chose qu'on fait déjà et on fait depuis des années. Et ça, c'est nettoyer la rue privée Mousseau-Vermette. Nettoyer et faire la maintenance aussi de la rue. 4Y, reconstruction des conduites d'eau potable.
Mr. Mayor, this is because we had 7 additional branch points that needed to be replaced with the Neptune portion of resurfacing. So I propose that we authorize the increase of the contract given to Excavation Gricon 3286916 Canada Inc. for an amount not exceeding $20,243.22, all taxes included.
Je seconde. Oh, vas-y, Bob.
Monsieur
Second,
Leroux,
Mr. Mayor.
Non, ça peut.
it's quite a big project.
I appreciate the patience of our residents during that ongoing work on Neptune.
It was certainly a big project, so you're correct. 4Z, service d'accompagnement en plantation d'arbres. Arbres. Pas des arbres.
Je propose, Monsieur le maire, d'autoriser l'émission d'un bon de commande à l'organisme GRAM pour des services d'accompagnement en plantation d'arbres et verdissement des terrains privés et des terrains du secteur industriel, commercial et institutionnel, ICI, incluant le démarchage auprès des ICI, la fourniture de 1000 arbres pour un montant global ne dépassant pas 200 000 $ non taxable, conformément à son offre de service.
Oui, M. le maire.
Merci, M. Trudeau. Très bon programme pour le secteur industriel. 4ZA, approbation d'ordre de changement.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, would be to authorize a change of order IM 18 to IM 23 to the contract awarded to MA2D Construction, Inc. for the amount of not exceeding $66,024.38, tax included, as part of the expansion work of the Dorval Arena. If I could
Just a
add in
second.
there, oh, okay.
That's
If I can add in there that I played hockey there on Sunday, and the work the lighting that's being generated from the hall, that from the outside light to the arena is just, I had compliments from the other players in the rink that I was playing with, that it really is super. It's really enjoyable playing there with the light from outdoors coming into the arena. So good start. Looking forward for it to be finished.
good news. We need a
Yes.
seconder.
Mr. Leroux, second.
Yeah.
Thank you. 4ZB, fourniture de services Internet.
Mr. Mayor, I propose that we authorize the issuing of a purchase order to Beanfield Technologies, Inc., the lowest conform bidder, to provide internet services for a period of 36 months, starting April 1st, 2022, for a total cost of $53,311.61, all taxes included, consistent with their bid opened January 31st, 2022.
I second that.
Merci, Madame Duchâtel. 4ZC, service professionnel pour la mise en norme du centre aquatique Valentine.
Je propose, M. le maire, de retenir les services professionnels de l'entreprise 9447-2479 Québec Inc. dans le cadre du projet de mise aux normes de la piscine Valentine pour un montant de 21 385 $ et 35 sous, toutes taxes comprises, conformément à son offre de service du 17 janvier 2022.
Appuie, M. le maire.
Merci, M. Trudeau. Ça, c'est la dernière piscine à refaire. 4ZD, on l'a enlevé. 4ZE, service professionnel, d'audit.
Propose,
Monsieur le
M.
maire,
Maire, Go ahead.
allez-y. Non, non.
Propose, M. Maire, de retenir les services professionnels de Raymond Chabot Grant Thornton, soumissionnaire conforme ayant obtenu le meilleur pointage lors de l'évaluation des soumissions pour effectuer l'audit externe des rapports financiers et divers mandats pour les années 2022 à 2024 pour un montant global de 230 869,80 sous, tout à ce compris, conformément à leur soumission ouverte le 1er février 2022.
J'appuie.
Merci, M. Von Reutz. On est dans la section finance et administration, le 5A.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, it would be to authorize the full and final payments of all claims described in the city clerk's report for the period from January 13 to February 16, 2022, and totaling of $2,284.15 non-taxable.
I second that.
Merci, M. Leroux. 5B, dépôt de la liste des dépenses autorisées. Est-ce qu'on a des questions?
Non.
Oh.
Non. 5C, approbation des virements budgétaires.
Monsieur le maire, je propose d'autoriser les 3 virements pour l'année fiscale 2022 au poste budgétaire tel que décrit au dossier décisionnel 2022-02-17041.
J'appuie, M. le maire.
Merci, Mme Châtel. Le 5D, modification au programme d'aide financière pour le traitement et l'abattage des freins privés. Freins privés.
Est-ce qu'on donne un peu de détails sur celui-ci, monsieur le maire?
Oui, c'est si vous voulez le faire, M. Von Reutz, c'est un programme de bonification du programme, quand même très important. Donc, voulez-vous dire une couple de mots?
Oui, si vous désirez. Donc, ce qu'on fait aujourd'hui, on continue le programme de traitement triazine pour ceux qui ont des freins pour être traités, mais en reconnaissant que plusieurs résidents ont plus qu'une freine à faire abattre et que ça coûte cher à faire venir à chaque fois l'abatteur pour couper une arbre. Et s'ils ont 2 ou 3, avec une subvention applicable à l'année, on s'est dit peut-être c'est plus pratique si on peut offrir aux gens d'appliquer pour une subvention plus importante, mais une fréquence réduite. C'est-à-dire que maintenant, les résidents auront accès à un montant plus important, jusqu'à 5 000 $, mais ça au cours de 4 ans. Comme ça, s'ils ont plusieurs arbres à abattre dans one shot, ça peut se faire, mais ils auront quand même accès à subdiviser si nécessaire. L'autre aspect, c'est que maintenant, ça va être basé sur la taille de l'arbre. On sait bien que plusieurs entrepreneurs décident, la facture qu'ils offrent ou leur offre de service est basée sur la taille, la largeur de l'arbre, le diamètre. Donc, on a étudié plusieurs d'autres villes et on a constaté que ce serait plus intéressant pour nos résidents si la subvention était basée sur l'épaisseur, le diamètre de l'arbre. So just quickly in English, this program is being revised. We're going to continue offering subsidies for the cutting of ash trees to prevent the spread of emerald ash borer, to manage the impact from it. But rather than exclusively offering a subsidy of up to $1,250 every year, residents will now have the option of applying for a larger subsidy of up to $5,000 over the period of 4 years. And this is really meant so that if residents have multiple ash trees, rather than having to request a contractor come back year after year for cutting each one at a time, which can be more expensive, if they have the means, they can opt to have more than one tree cut at the same time. Additionally, we've attempted to make our subsidy fund more beneficial to residents by basing it on the diameter of the trees. We know that a number of companies quote the cost of felling ash trees based on the diameter. And so having studied a number of other cities, it was concluded that this would probably be more beneficial. Well, this is likely to be more beneficial for our residents by basing the subsidy program this way. It's still to a maximum of 50% of the cost, but we hope that this will hasten the removal of ash trees of great concern and providing some additional support to residents who have multiple trees that have to be felled. So with all that, I'd like to motion that we adopt the financial subsidy program for the triazine treatment and cutting of ash trees as revised.
I second, Mr. Mayor.
Monsieur Lesage, seconds. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Von Royds, for taking the time to explain. This will definitely be very beneficial to people who have 4, 5, up to 10 trees in their backyard who are hesitating at cutting them down due to the big cost. So I think this is a unique program now in the city of Dorval. There's no city of Montreal, island of Montreal, and there's nobody who even comes close to this kind of program. So I hope that everybody takes full advantage of this program. A lot of these trees are getting old, and some of them need to be taken down as soon as possible to not endanger your own homes. Hope this plan works for you. 5E.
I motion the authorization of financial assistance to the following groups: $2,400 to the Strathmore Scouting Group to cover the new rent of the new room they're renting. $450 to Awish, which is Arthritis West Island Self-Help, and $4,500 to Festival de la Voix.
A second.
Seconder. Madame Duchâtel.
Before,
And what's, pardon?
just before, you can go ahead. I just have a comment before we vote.
Oh, I encourage everyone to look at the Festival de la Voix. It shows that life is coming back to normal after a long COVID lockdown, where we can now gather together and enjoy a good concert or a gathering, a cultural gathering. So exciting news for everyone. Mr. Von Royds.
Yeah, just before the vote, I'd like to abstain specifically from point A. I do vote in favor of B and C. But for A, while it's not officially a conflict of interest because the Strathmore Scouting Group is a not-for-profit organization, because I sit on their group committee, for the sake of transparency, I'll abstain from voting on specifically the awarding of that grant for 5E number or letter A.
Thank you, Mr. Von Royds. Do we have a seconder?
Appuie, Monsieur le Maire.
Monsieur Trudeau, merci.
J'avais Madame Duchâtel.
Ah, OK.
On l'avait? OK, excuse.
Parfait, merci.
5F, autorisation d'une assistance financière.
Oui, Monsieur le Maire, je propose d'autoriser une assistance financière totalisant la somme de 3 639,05 $ pour 4 membres d'une famille dans le cadre du programme créé par le Fonds d'aide et de soutien aux citoyens et citoyennes de Dorval, aux personnes qui suivent. Il faut mentionner que ces 4 personnes de cette famille pratiquent l'escrime, qui en soi est un sport assez intéressant et jamais je ne toucherai à ça. Alors, c'est pour monsieur ou madame Wee Lundai, 1352,77, Ding John Wu, 1410,34, Anne-Charlotte Wu, 780 et 94, finalement Mi Sen Wu, 95 $.
Appuyard.
Appuyer.
Madame Duchâtel, merci. Section 6, l'urbanisme. Le 6A, c'est un dépôt du procès verbal du comité d'études de démolition. Monsieur Lesage.
C'est juste pour déposer que le 170 avenue Allard est autorisé par le comité et comme tu as mentionné plus tôt, je l'avais précisé durant la période de questions, aucune démolition va être faite jusqu'à temps qu'on reçoit les nouveaux plans pour la nouvelle maison. Et ça va sans dire que les arbres vont être très regardés quand ça arrive le temps pour que les gens vont proposer leur nouvelle construction.
Merci, Monsieur Lesage. 6B, et c'est le dépôt du procès verbal du comité consultatif d'urbanisme. Des questions? All right, le 6. Pardon? Non. Le 6C, approbation de plan d'implantation et intégration architecturale.
Oui, Monsieur
Monsieur
le
Lesage.
maire. Oui, ce serait pour approuver les plans et les documents associés au projet suivant. Sur le 200 avenue d'Orval, projet de redéveloppement mixte, résidentiel et commercial non recommandé. Le 560 boulevard Graham, construction d'une habitation unifamiliale isolée, recommandée majoritairement. Le 13 place des Carrés, construction d'une habitation unifamiliale isolée non recommandée. Le 140 boulevard Neptune, projet d'agrandissement d'une habitation unifamiliale isolée recommandé majoritairement. Et le 276 Green Circle, projet d'agrandissement d'une habitation unifamiliale isolée recommandé unanimement.
Je seconde.
Monsieur Leroux, merci. 4D, c'est le rapport comparatif de liste de permis pour janvier 2022. Des questions?
Non.
On achève. 7, divers projets. 7A, approbation du comité exécutif du club tennis.
Mr. Mayor, I propose that we authorize the nomination of the, I propose that we approve the nomination of the proposed individuals by the members of the Dorval Municipal Tennis Club, attached with document 2022-02-17184, to sit as the executive committee members for the club for the 2021-2022 season, consistent with bylaw RCM 772019.
J'appuie, Monsieur le maire.
Merci, M. Trudeau. Ressources humaines, 8A, ajout d'un poste d'ingénieur.
Monsieur le maire, je propose d'autoriser l'ajout d'un poste d'ingénieur de projet et la modification de l'organigramme du service des travaux publics, division de l'ingénierie municipale.
J'appuie.
Merci, M. Von Wertz. C'est
Excellent.
pour aider notre équipe de travaux publics à avancer avec le gros dossier de projets qu'ils ont. Pas d'ajout.
Tous les ajouts qu'on propose ce soir, je trouve que c'est excellent. La ville s'avance, on adopte de plus en plus de projets de tâches et ça se voit avec les engagements qu'on va faire.
Exactement. Le 8B, création d'un poste de cadre de coordinateur de projet.
Je propose, Monsieur le maire, d'autoriser la création d'un poste de coordinateur de projet au service de l'aménagement urbain à compter du 21 février 2022. Aussi, d'autoriser l'ajout d'un poste de préposé au permis et à l'occupation au service de l'aménagement urbain à compter du 21 février 2022. Et aussi d'autoriser la modification de l'organigramme du service de l'aménagement urbain pour y ajouter un poste d'un coordonnateur de projet et un poste de préposé au permis et à l'occupation à compter du 21 février 2022.
Je seconde.
Merci. Les importants ajouts au département d'aménagement urbain, ça va aider avec des délais qu'on a dans ce département-là. C'est très important. Le 8C, confirmation d'une permanence d'un coordinateur.
Oui, Monsieur le maire, ce serait pour confirmer rétroactivement au 17 février 2022 la nomination permanente de Mathieu Naltachia au poste de coordinateur véhicules et services des travaux publics.
J'appuie, Monsieur le maire.
Merci, Mme Duchâtel. Et 8D, autoriser de paiement de frais de gestion de fonds de défense des mutuelles.
Je propose, Monsieur le maire, d'autoriser le paiement de la cotisation annuelle pour 2022 au montant de 54 019,22 $, toutes taxes comprises, au groupe conseil Nouveau SST, représentant des frais de gestion et du fonds de défense de la mutuelle de prévention Nouveau SST. Ça, c'est en vertu de la loi sur la CNSST. Les employeurs doivent être membres de mutuelles. Ça fait baisser les coûts des cotisations et ça assure le fait que les gens adoptent des bonnes pratiques de gestion de la SST.
J'appuie.
Merci, Mme Duchâtel. On n'a pas d'affaires nouvelles et donc j'aimerais quelqu'un pour proposer la levée de la séance?
Propose.
La prière? Est-ce qu'on en a?
Monsieur
Ah.
Lesage? La prière?
Moi ou Nicole,
Monsieur Lassage?
Carrément, l'agenda n'était pas assez long. Là.
Non, quand même, le meeting est assez long, donc merci à tout le monde. On l'a fait à l'intérieur de 2 heures, qui est très bien. Je souhaite tout le monde une bonne soirée. I wish everyone a good evening. It was a long meeting, and we'll see you again in March, au prochain meeting en mars. Merci, bonne soirée.
Bonsoir tout le monde.
Bonne soirée.
Bonne soirée.